Michelle Scott. Yes. I keep forgetting that. I'm sorry. Hi, everyone. My name is Jordan Bennett. This is Michelle Scott. We're here tonight at Ethan Allen. I'll start with me. My name is Jordan Bennett again, real estate broker here at Keller Williams, right here locally. And we help people buy, sell, and invest in real estate. We've helped over 350 families here locally buy and sell real estate. And we are starting this series called Home Hacks, where we are talking about all things home related. So last time we talked a little bit about financing. Tonight we are talking about design. And we're here tonight to learn a little bit more about how you can position your home, both for sale or just for living, really to improve spaces and to do great things with some things that you have and some things that you may want to add. And so we're going to learn a little bit tonight. We're going to do a little interview here. And why don't you take us away, Michelle?
My name is Michelle Scott. I'm an interior designer with Ethan Allen. I've been with the company about 15 years total. I've been an interior designer for over 23 years. I've done product design, showroom design, interior design, pretty much anything that has to do with design. I've, at least with furniture, I've done it. I work here with Ethan Allen in Laguna Niguel. It's a design center where you can come and meet with me. We can discuss your project, and come up with some great solutions for you. So I look forward to showing you in Facebook Live land, as well as our lovely group we have here today, some of the things that we can do.
We're going to head into another one of the many rooms here at Ethan Allen and do a little bit of questioning to find out a little bit more about design.
We'll just follow them.
All right, sure.
When you guys are done, you can leave your plates. I'll come around and grab them.
So, talk to your audience.
What is that?
For this, for the other stuff, like
That way? Like I'm looking this way or this way? Where am I? Where do you want me? Okay. Are we still live? Okay.
You can turn the chairs around over here.
Well, after that seamless transition, we are going to hop right into it. So the first question for you, Michelle, is what is the number one thing that you can do to improve the look and feel of your home?
Call me.
All right.
Really, the one of the best things that you can do is to declutter. You have to remember not every surface needs multiple items, and we definitely don't need to cover every inch when we're doing a party or when we're decorating for an event. It's a different story. But one of the things I like to tell people is, think back to some of the most relaxing hotel rooms you've been in, and they're typically very minimal, very clean, and a very cohesive look. And that's part of the decluttering process is to look at your spaces and see all of those things that maybe could be rotated in and out of display, set aside. You don't necessarily need to have 18 of something on a shelf, as a collection to show that you have all of those 18 things. It's much more effective when you come over to someone's house and you see, one thing here, and then the next time you come back, there's another thing there. It's a little more interesting and a little more fun.
Okay. So going off script a little bit, is there kind of a magic number? Like, let's say you have a mantle right over a fireplace, and what is the best way to maximize that space? Do you have one, do you have one thing on each side? Do you have 3 things? Do you have 10? How do you figure out what is that number and what you do with that space?
So, so there are rules, but they're not always meant to be followed.
Okay.
Odd numbers tend to be more pleasing than even numbers. Even numbers tend to feel more formal if it's a symmetrical balance. So if you have a central piece and then 2 matching pieces on the sides, that would be symmetrical because these are matching pieces. And that generally gives a more formal, a little stiffer feel. Where if you use asymmetrical balance and you have, taking that same example, you still have your central piece, but over here you have a tall floral, and over here you have 3 candlesticks. Then that would be those items having a similar visual weight and balancing, but not being matching.
Interesting. Thank you for sharing that. So what would you say when you are meeting with a new client, or you have somebody that comes to you and says, okay, we want to do a redesign, we want to change things up. What is the first step in approaching a design project?
So the first thing I want to do when I'm working with a client is to get to know them. And I'll have a conversation with them where we talk about their lifestyle, who lives in the home, what activities take place in the home. Then I'll typically go out to the home and walk through it with them, and we can look at things that they have existing and find out what works for them, what doesn't work for them, if there's things that they love and they want to keep and repurpose into this new space or this new design, or if there's things that they just absolutely want to get rid of. This is a good time to work with all of the people who live in the home. Sometimes making unilateral decisions doesn't work really well in a design situation when there's multiple people who are living in the space. We want to make sure that we've got good input and respect everybody's wants and needs.
So most of the time, do people agree, or do you ever disagree with spousal disagreements?
I play monkey in the middle a lot.
Okay.
There's a lot of times where the style of one person versus another is very disparate. Sometimes there'll be one person who really likes modern and a lot of shine and a lot of hard surfaces, and someone else who really is more traditional and likes warm colors and rich fabrics. And finding a way to meet everybody's needs and come up with a cohesive design that works. That can be part of the challenge, but it's also part that I love.
It should be. Shouldn't that be a part of premarital counseling? Asking people what is their preferred style, modern, traditional.
Possibly, but I have a feeling that might lead to a lot of people not getting married.
That is probably true. So on that note, what would you say are some of the latest styles and trends that we're seeing today?
One of the big ones is the modern farmhouse look. And it's a combination of rustic design but clean lines, a lot of grays, a lot of weathered finishes, a lot of denim and black and white and neutral. There's a lot of greige, which is that color that kind of straddles the line between gray and beige.
Never heard that before. I like that word.
Well, its counterpart is taupe, which people don't like to say because taupe brings on a whole different connotation, but they're pretty similar. So there's a lot of neutral that has been really popular with this modern farmhouse look. You'll see things like crystal chandeliers, but done in a black wrought iron as opposed to a silver finish or a chrome finish or some of the more new looking metals.
Okay. So we hear it looks like contemporary and that transitional and contemporary style is very popular right now, a lot of grays. Do you think that is a phase, or do you think that's neutral enough that, if somebody's going for that look right now, they're making everything geared toward that look? Is that still going to be hip and trendy in 10 years?
Trends don't tend to last that long.
How long do they last?
It depends on the trend.
Is that like when someone asks me how long does like an upcycle in the real estate market last? Okay.
Exactly. I have a lot of clients coming in who are finally tiring of Tuscan, which was one of the bigger trends recently. That lasted us from the real estate boom through probably 10 years ago. But if you did that look at the end of the trend, you've been living with it while everyone's been doing all these cool colors and doing all these finishes. So I predict that gray will stay because it's a great neutral. But I also think that all the monochromatic spaces that are being done, people are going to start adding color to, because while it's beautiful and serene, it starts to get a little one note. It starts to get a little too serene,
right,
a little sleepy.
Yeah.
And that actually is one of the styles that we're seeing more and more of, is incorporating some color and texture, and it's kind of a global, I guess, a global influence that's coming in, where we're starting to see, again, deeper, richer colors, and celebrating some cultural textiles and art and things that are kind of looking a little more outwardly world with a worldview, as opposed to keeping this kind of quiet monochromatic thing going.
That's interesting. Yeah, it seems like sometimes people can almost go too gray. It's like the gray floors and the gray countertops and the gray cabinets and the gray paint. Next thing you know, can start feeling like a little bit like a prison.
Right.
So it's interesting, right? I mean, you could have somebody, you could take that, and using furniture and the tools that you have, you could work with that space and kind of bring it to life.
Bring some warmth in. Yes, absolutely. And trends are great, because trends are what keep people interested in style and create a need and a want for style and changing things. So I love seeing new trends, because it usually means that I'm going to get phone calls about, have you seen this, or have you heard of this, or what do you think about this? And I with the majority of my clients, I like to take a kind of a classic approach to design. It's kind of like the little black dress, or a black suit for a man. You start with something very classic, and then you use things to accessorize that are more following the trends.
Interesting.
And then that way, you don't end up in this design crisis where you're still living in a 1970s avocado green and pumpkin home, and everyone's moved on to something completely different.
Absolutely. I guess if trends and if trends and designs didn't change, then you and me and general contractors will all be out of business. Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what would you say is something that you can do to help a client identify the look and feel that they're going for? If somebody has kind of maybe a rough idea, but they're giving them clarity on what they're looking for.
So I'd say probably 80% of the people I meet these days have a Pinterest or a House account. If not both, then one or the other. We also have a take-home book that is very similar to a Pinterest or a Houzz kind of a visual. And so what I like to do is ask them for their locations on Pinterest and Houzz, and look through those idea books that they've come up with. And a lot of times I'll find a common thread, even if the style is very different from space to space on those boards. Their idea boards will have something that is cognizant. And if everything is so vastly different, then we'll sit down and we'll talk about, okay, well, what is it that you like about, you like how open it feels, you like how the drapery frames out the view but doesn't cover the window, or, we can have a conversation and kind of dig into what it is that appeals to people about this room or this space.
Okay.
Then the home call, again, walking through their home with them, and seeing all those little things that show a client's personality, from the photos on the wall to the art to their dishes, all of those things give clues into what a person is really attached to.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I'll say, is that art something that means something to you? And they'll go, oh no, it came with a house. So then I know that that's not something that I'm going to put into the mix of what stylistically they're going to be enjoying.
That makes sense. So you had mentioned, some of the trends that are kind of cutting edge right now and really popular. Kind of mentioned that Tuscan is a little bit on the way up. Any other insights on maybe things that are, other styles that maybe are kind of fading, or maybe, hey, anything coming down the pipeline that's like on the cutting edge of, people are starting to move kind of in this direction? Are you seeing anything like that?
Well, it seems like HGTV has stepped away from design programs and more into real estate, with all of the design to sell and those kind of things. And that's really affected the general public's idea of what interior design is. And that's, I think, how the gray thing started, and the neutralizing everything is because they were doing it on those shows, and it, people see it on TV, and it looks beautiful on TV, and so they want to participate in that. So I think a lot of the times the celebrity designers that they use in those programs can kind of create a thing,
Interesting.
Like if you look at Candace Olsen, she started off as a HGTV or one of those networks personality, and she's and she had a very specific style, which then became very popular. Same with like Kelly Wearstler and Jonathan Adler, which is really great because they're really creative people who are infusing the public view with some things that are outside of what used to be considered a middle class suburban home in Orange County. There's a bigger view now between television and the internet. What I'm hoping is that people start to design for who they are,
right, and
start to be able to use pieces and create spaces that are truly personal and really function the way they need them to.
Yeah, you can definitely get a little bit of that herd mentality of everybody doing what's on HGTV, right?
Absolutely.
I guess it's the bigger question of what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Is it the culture impacting what's on TV, or is it the TV impacting the culture? It's probably a little bit of both, right?
It's probably, a mixture of the two.
Okay. One last question for you. Do you see benefit, to having design, specifically maybe a redesign, having any impact, on the sale of a home, taking it back to real estate?
Absolutely. One of the things that's, I think, very important in selling a home these days is staging, because when you've lived in a home for however many years, you tend to collect things, and some things are not in the best of repair, and Everything's very lived in, and a potential client walking through a space that looks like somebody already lives there it's not going to appeal to them in the way that a space that's designed to make everybody feel at home or able to imagine their family in this space. I don't know if that just made sense, but
yeah. So you mean someone's really specific taste might not appeal to everybody?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Good to know. Well, is there any questions from anybody here with us tonight?
I do. Seems like everybody in America now has or is planning to get a white kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all going to have white Carrara marble.
Mm-hmm.
Is this going to be the avocado green of the 70s?
Well, fortunately, a white kitchen is pretty classic, but like with most things, it can be overdone. I don't do kitchens. However, I do have a lot of clients ask me for my input and help with product selection. And I really like to show them how varied materials can add interest and depth and ease of care in a space. And I think we're starting to see another shift in that white on white kitchen to bringing in some wood tones and wood grains and painting other colors other than gray too.
Great question.
Yeah, we had a question on here that said, "Are white kitchen cabinets here to stay?"
Well, I think white kitchen cabinets are pretty classic, but it's great that in a kitchen you can change your countertops and your backsplash and your flooring to give some variety and some depth.
I have a question. How about the pretty glass tile that everyone's doing, like a strip of it in the bathroom or in their kitchen?
Mm-hmm. Feature strips?
I believe.
Like where it's like 6 inches
Yes.
wide? Feature strips are, that's one of the ways that you can add a little detail without going all the way with like a glass tile, because those could get pretty pricey.
Right. And that's kind of new. So do you think that's going to be
the feature strip?
Yeah.
Actually, they've been around for a long time.
Oh, okay, not super new.
But
Maybe a phase or
no, I think that feature strips are kind of a valid way of adding some interest. I think the way that people are using feature strips is changing, and people are getting a little more creative with them. I've seen them run vertically through showers, which can be very dramatic and give a really nice look. I was consulting on a kitchen just recently, and they had a long thin tile. I think it was like a 1x6 that they were going to use kind of in an offset pattern. And I talked to them about running it vertically rather than horizontally, because their kitchen felt very squatty, and I thought that would help to maybe elongate a little bit, or at least fool the eye a little bit that it was elongated. So their tile contractor got very mad at me, but they're going to do it.
Oh, we have a question in the back.
Yeah, I had a question. I'm curious what your thoughts are on mid-century modern. It's been around for a while, but it's been a big push the last few years with the kidney-shaped tables and the hairpin legs and the geodes and all that. It's been fun to see the warmth of the browns and the orange. It's very much an influence right now.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about how long it's lasting and kind of how heavy to go with it? Because I know I like to do little pieces. You don't want to, like, you're living on a Mad Men set, so it's too specific. I'm curious what your thoughts are about this influence.
I love mid-century furniture. I think one of the things to think about with the mid-century trend or push is if you're using real mid-century furniture, the scale of it with furniture today can be a little bit challenging because it is very light, very very petite in comparison. So in that respect, I think if you're going to go mid-century, you really kind of got to go mid-century, or have one accent piece that's really amazing, and then keep with your current scale furniture for your everyday pieces. Being so tiny, a lot of the mid-century stuff is less than comfortable. But sometimes you really want that style, and the comfort isn't as important to you. So, it kind of depends on what your priorities are.
On the mid-century modern, real quick, on the real estate side, it's interesting because there's pockets of Tustin and Orange. I mean, that I've seen Tustin and Orange, and then out in Palm Springs, where mid-century modern home will literally, the same square footage, will sell $150,000 more, than a similar home. Like it's very trendy, and it's something that's very appealing to people, on the initial buy as well.
We had a question online about whether or not wallpaper is coming back to stay. Wallpaper is a great way to add interest to some spaces that it's hard to bring color and pattern into. Bathrooms are a good use of wallpaper. Entry rooms or entryways. Feature walls. There's a lot of really great things we can do with wallpaper, and it's a relatively inexpensive way to create a big impact in a space, or very subtle and textural. There's a lot of neat things that you can do with wallpaper.
You hope it's here to stay because it's a pain in the butt to take down.
Not if you call it professional.
How do you feel about Mongolian fur pillows? Are they on their way out?
I don't know about Mongolian fur specifically. We have a lot of faux fur pillows that I love throwing in spaces because they're just kind of fun and funky. I think fur is fun to work with. I prefer fake fur, so I haven't dealt with a whole lot of real fur. I guess that could get into a pretty political discussion.
Keep it neutral.
But yeah, I like fluffy stuff, so fur pillows work for me.
When you decorate, do you take into account the style of the house, like if it's
to a point?
Mediterranean versus a traditional?
Yeah, to a point. I don't believe that you need to style your interior according to the facade of your home. But if you're going to be in a Mediterranean style or a Spanish colonial style home, there's going to be elements in the interiors that can make it challenging to go super hardline modern, for instance. But there's always ways that we can create some sort of a connection to the architecture of a home through art, through textiles, through accent pieces that allow us to really express who you are in your home more so than what your house is.
Any other questions? We know our Facebook viewers only have about a 3-minute focus time, so they're probably already...
We already lost them.
One more question.
We're good. No more questions.
All right.
I have one.
One more.
I'm curious. In California, 30 years ago, I moved to California from the East Coast, where here you just tear off the house every 10 years. Crown molding's big, mid-century, rip off the crown. 10 years later, crown comes back, put in the crown. French doors, multiple panes, rip them out to have single pane. Is there any way of having a stable, traditional look and making it look contemporary or modern by changing the furnishings, but not necessarily ripping off all the moldings and stripping it down to like a square cube condo walls in a nice home? Because that's what it seems to be. Everybody wants to make everything a condo home.
I think you need to make an appointment with me.
What's next, Michelle?
Pardon?
Is it answerable?
Not in 3 minutes.
What's next, Michelle?
So now we're going to look at how to create some spring tablescapes for the upcoming holidays.
All right. Michelle, take the reins. That defeats the live. You can talk all you want.
All right, look at that. How fantastic is that?
Those are for one as well. Oh, yeah. Isn't that great? You have a how-to in your We did some serious Pinterest. Yeah.
It had nothing to do with him.
Right. I know. I love coconut. Is that coconut? Are we doing this one first? Yes. Are you still filming?
Yes.
You look like you're part of production there.
Oh, goodness.
You can't stop Facebook Live.
That's the rule.
That makes it not Facebook Live.
Okay, so for this room, we opted to have a colorful, traditional setting. So we went with Easter colors of pink and white and green, kind of a Peter Rabbit in the Cabbage Patch idea. So one of the things that we want to do when we're preparing to set up a holiday table or a table for an event is to shop your home. A lot of times we'll find things like candlesticks and different elements. Maybe you got some flowers you pulled out of your garden recently. you've got grandma's china, and then you can go and you can invest in a couple of fun little accent things to bring the table together, and you can really create something very interesting. I'm a big fan of Pinterest and doing it yourself. So I've got a few things here that we've done. The bunny napkins we'll be demonstrating, and you also have in your take-home bags a how-to of how to do both of the bunny napkins. I think so. If you were to be dining at this table, you would want to remove some of the taller pieces so that you can have a conversation with your friends and family, and hopefully you don't break your other centerpieces. So actually just removing a couple of elements really opens the table up. You can then put your ham or tofurkey or whatever it is that you're celebrating with in the center of the table, and you can have a nice, comfortable conversation with your friends and family. Okay, you ready to go to the ocean?
Yes.
Lead the way.
All right. I don't think so. I think we're running out of time. So maybe, okay. So maybe your style isn't quite so Peter Cottontail in the garden, and your style runs a little more to the ocean. You can very easily create a springtime Easter tablescape using some elements that you have from around the house. We have some wonderful weathered candlesticks to give a very natural feel. We've got coral, and my boss graciously brought in her sea urchin container collection that she's collected pieces of throughout the years. We used some iridescent eggs. I found this fabulous jellyfish runner. We have elements of driftwood and some really nice natural feeling plates and things to just layer in some different textures. When you're creating a tablescape like this, one of the things that you're going to want to do is pay attention to things like textures and have natural elements and have a little bit of sparkle and a little bit of shine, which kind of creates a space that is special and personal and kind of fun. One of the things that you want to remember while you're decorating is to use your food or play with your food. Here, my friend Heather Bronner has created some succulent cupcakes that go into the theme of our space very well. Okay. Follow me, guys. Now, Facebook people, you're going to be really sad because we have cupcakes to go. These are bird's nest cupcakes that are also going to be in our tutorial handouts. And people on Facebook, if you contact either Jordan, Kaylee, or myself, we can get you copies of the tutorial handouts. So this space This space is kind of a vintage, rustic farmhouse feel. Again, we're varying textures. We've got a little bit of bling. We've got a little bit of rustic. We've got some nature. These are cupcakes. The white chocolate dipped carrots in the chocolate dirt cupcakes are a pretty simple one to make. And again, there's copies of instructions in the package you're taking home. And then the bird's nests with the toasted coconut and the Jordan almonds, I thought was a fun touch. So here again, we've collected things from different spaces in the home to pull together a fun, festive table. We've got galvanized steel chargers, and again with a combination of some melamine that we found and some pottery. And then we've got a couple of sneaky accents in the different spaces as well.
Beautiful. Yeah. Love that.
These are real carrots and real flowers. So this is a centerpiece idea that we found on Pinterest and recreated in our own way. And again, you'll have a little tutorial on in your packets. Does anybody have any questions?
Can I ask a dumb one?
Certainly.
Could you really have a table with like all those different chairs, or is that just for kind of stage?
Oh no, this is fun. This is something I like to do with clients that have a little bit of a sense of adventure and playfulness. Absolutely.
It's fun.
Yeah. It's like the bridesmaids.
We've got some big fans of the succulent cupcakes.
Oh, they should be friends. I mean, they should be fans. And again, get in touch with me, and I'll make sure that you've got the information to get a hold of my friend Heather.
Michelle, just another question on artwork, since I've noticed that. Is there a place on the wall where the art is supposed to be? Because if you're like, I've always heard eye level. Well, if you're 6'2" or you're 5'2", it's a different place.
So you split the difference if you have the variety of heights that way, but your eye level should be at about midpoint to 2/3. But that's a rule that I break all the time as well. So that's one of those. Talk to your designer.
So there's not a
questions.
firm rule on that.
There's not a firm rule, but you shouldn't have them up too high. And if you can see more than about a foot of space between your sofa and the piece of art that's hanging above it, it needs to come down. For the most part. But not every time.
Like, that's a great one. I think we all think about that when we're hanging a piece of art. Are there any other kind of simple tips and tricks like that you get asked all the time of like, hey, I wish people would stop doing this because it looks horrible, and do this instead?
About 36 inches from the bottom of your chandelier to your tabletop is a good rule of thumb. You don't want them hanging up to the ceiling unless your dining room's doubling as a dance floor and you need to make sure that you can clear it. But even in that situation, sometimes there's solutions that are a little more.
That's a great one.
And put pillows on your sofa. Don't be afraid of pillows.
How many?
Never too many.
It depends.
You want to say goodbye to everyone?
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for watching, and get in touch with me at Ethan Allen in Laguna Niguel.
How do we get a hold of you, Michelle?
You can email me at michelle.scott@ethanallen.com, or you can call the showroom 949-349-8255.
0101 and ask for Michelle Scott.
We'll give a hand to Michelle. Yeah.